Hey guys, welcome to this week's sports talk show. I'm your host Gabby Bates, and I'm here with Zach, and Zach. There's so much to discuss in this week's sports. Some exciting things went on, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with the NFL recap from you guys. What teams have seemed to really impress you, and maybe some teams that haven't seemed to impress you?
All right, well, we've got 3 unbeatens left in the NFL, which is 4 less than this point last year. We've got Philly, who's rolling into San Francisco next weekend. We've got 2 teams that are going on byes. Arizona, who's going to come off bye to play the Broncos in Denver. And Cincinnati, who's going to come off bye to play the Patriots in New England. What you guys got?
You mentioned a team like Philly. Philly is a team that has notoriously, for the first 3 games, gotten off to a real slow start. They've come back from double-digit deficits all 3 games so far. They had a little brawl with the Redskins last week, which is exciting for everyone to watch. But they got to San Francisco, you said, this week. They go out to the Bay Area, go out and play a San Francisco team that's been underachieving largely for the most part of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how they can play. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any adjustments made that maybe give them a quicker start against a strong team like San Francisco.
You know, I really like what I'm seeing out of Nick Foles. He seems to be in a really good rhythm with his receivers lately, and the passing game seems to be coming on strong. And that offense is lethal, man. They can tear up some defenses.
No, yeah, absolutely. It was really exciting to see Chip Kelly make the transition from Oregon up to the NFL. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to be able to do it. A lot of people thought that it was a gimmick offense, if you will. And it's exciting. It's exciting football. It's changing the culture, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to give you my pick to be the last team undefeated, and it's going to shock you. It's going to be the Arizona Cardinals, which might have some people saying, wow, the Arizona Cardinals, they still haven't lost. They've played tough games. They've been down 11 points in the fourth quarter to the San Diego Chargers, who just beat the reigning NFL champion Seahawks. They came back against the Giants in a tough road game, and this is a team with the best cornerback in football, in my opinion, Patrick Peterson. He's an absolute shutdown guy. I mean, anyone you want to throw on that side of the field, Patrick Peterson's going to shut him down. And I think the Cardinals, their offense can surprise people, whether it's Drew Stanton or Carson Palmer at quarterback. They've still got Larry Fitzgerald, Michael Floyd, big weapons in the passing game, Andre Ellington, and Chandler Catanzaro, a couple Clemson grads that are doing some heavy lifting for that team. And I think they've looked like a solid squad so far.
I agree with you, and it's hard not to. Obviously being a Giants fan, seeing them come up to MetLife and handle their business was impressive. But at the same time, that's a team that has a lot of holes on defense right now. How long is that going to be a hold up? Yes, you mentioned a guy like Patrick Peterson, who is a lockdown corner, arguably the best in the league. And, maybe he is the best in the league. But locking down one side of the field only goes so far when you have holes to plug on the run game and your linebacker corps is depleted.
Well, don't forget, this is a team that was the number 2 overall defense last year, and we would have been talking about them a lot more had the Seattle Seahawks not been in their division.
That's a great point there, because that was last year. We're in 2014 now, so we're ready to go, and it's a different team. It's a different defense.
I really like Andre Ellington. It's perhaps maybe because he's a local guy coming out of Clemson, but I really like what I'm seeing from him this year. I really expect him to break out for a big year this year, and I think by the end of the year we'll see about 1,500 rushing yards out of him.
1,500 is a lofty number for a guy like Andre Ellington, but I like the enthusiasm. I really do. That's a guy that had, 5.6 yards a carry last year, led the league in that or whatever.
And don't forget that last year, this is a different offense too. He was splitting carries with Rashard Mendenhall, who's now retired, and Jonathan Dwyer was supposed to be the backup, who was going to do a lot of the heavy goal line lifting, maybe some third down pass protection, but Dwyer is one of the latest victims of the NFL's domestic abuse whole thing. So it's just Ellington over there. He's going to be the feature guy. He's going to carry the load. And he's shown that he can do it at Clemson. So if he can carry the same level of energy in the NFL, he's going to have great success.
And really, how much can you trust a guy like Drew Stanton to be the quarterback for your offense? You got to run the offense somehow, and I think we'll start to see Andre Ellington get a lot more carries in the next coming games.
That's a great point. Drew Stanton is, you can plug him in every now and again and maybe squeak by with a win like we saw at the Giants and MetLife. And at the same time, you're right. You have to lean on your running game a lot more. You have to lean on your defense a lot more. And we both just talked about Ellington he's going to be a guy that is going to have durability issues. He had him at Clemson with his foot a little while. He played through the pain, to his credit, but he's having him in the NFL now. He's had a foot problem all year so far. Is it going to be able to hold up all 16 games? We'll see.
Well, what I think helps them out in that department is they have Bruce Arians, who's the best play caller west of Sean Payton, running that offense. He gives Stanton.
Big statement, yeah.
He gives Stanton plays that he can handle. He doesn't ask him to do too much. Really treats him like a game manager. A lot of underneath throws to big receivers with a low chance for failure. And he sets the guys up to succeed. He gives Ellington a little bit of a break every now and then when he can. And I think he's one of the better play callers in the NFL.
All right, we talked about the 3-0 teams. We went through them. Who's going to be the last one standing? There's a couple of 0-3 teams in the NFL right now. We got the Raiders, we got the Bucks, and we got the Jags. Who gets off the schneid first and gets that first debut of the year?
Well, I'll tell you who it's not going to be. It's not going to be Jacksonville. Rolling into San Diego this weekend. I mean, San Diego, team that just beat the Seahawks at home. San Diego team is looking very good with Phillip Rivers, although they are a little depleted at running back, down to Donald Brown, who is a third stringer, who is now the starter after injuries to Ryan Matthews and Danny Woodhead. But who's Oakland got up this week?
Oakland's got Miami this weekend.
Miami is having a quarterback controversy of their own. I think that's a very winnable game.
Yeah, and I think Carr is starting to get into a rhythm with his receivers also. We're seeing that in Oakland. He's had a bit of a bumpy start, but I think we'll start to see the team put it together this upcoming week. I think the Raiders walk out of this one with a win, and they become the first 0-3 team to get their W.
No, I mean, I completely agree with both of you. At the same time, Jacksonville is nowhere close to being a team ready to compete. They went into the season having a firm game plan of we're going to work our way along the season, develop Blake Bortles, and not throw him to the Wolves, and he's going to start this week, which is absurd. A team like Tampa Bay, who a lot of people had a lot of expectations for. They had Lovie Smith coming in, a guy who was a proven winner. You had a guy like Doug Martin in the backfield that could pound the rock. He could run the ball. And you have these big, tall, athletic receivers, and they've done nothing but disappoint so far. So, yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you. Oakland gets the win in Miami this week, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and what we've seen is a big regression to the mean from Josh McCown, who was one of the best quarterbacks in football for a 4 or 5 week stretch last season when Jay Cutler went down in Chicago, but he's not been able to have the same success when he's been asked to shoulder the load as an expectation.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. Now we're going to get into just a little bit of MLB. We've had some pretty exciting things happen. We have Derek Jeter playing his last game on Thursday. We have the Yankees losing to the Orioles. We have the Tigers beating the Tigers with their win over the White Sox. So, guys, what do you think the MLB has brought to us this week?
I think we're seeing some fantastic playoff races outside of the Derek Jeter story, which is obviously huge. We've got a big race in the AL Central with the Royals and the Tigers. The NL West could be wrapped up tonight, but the Giants are looking to keep it alive against Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. The NL Central is yet to be decided, so we've got some pretty solid races still going on.
This week in Major League Baseball has brought nothing but tears from me. Being a diehard Yankee fan, seeing your boy Jeter walk away. Seeing them lose today, actually, and getting their playoff hopes crushed by a Baltimore team who's been phenomenal this year. Unfortunately, we do have a Baltimore fan on the set tonight, and it's his first show, so please welcome him. But, yeah, he's going to talk about the Orioles a little bit and where he sees them going in the postseason, I guess.
Yeah, no, the thing with the Orioles that they have to definitely keep being consistent with in the playoffs is, A, they definitely need to get more consistency out of their hitters. There's stretches with the hitters where they'll tear away 10 runs, and then the next game they'll get shut out. So going into the postseason, I think the biggest thing they need to work on is keeping that a consistent flow. And I saw a stat earlier today that the Orioles are 43-2 when scoring 4 runs in the last 45 games. So if they can just get the runs up and keep the other team's runs down, I mean, they'll win. And I mean, that's kind of a basic rule of baseball, but that's just how it works.
You're telling me if you score more runs than the opponent, you're going to win the game.
It's shocking, right? Yeah.
Wow. That's some hard-hitting insight. Zach, anything else to add?
I mean, I don't know. That's just so brilliant. I don't know if I can compare anything with that. But I can say, as a Red Sox fan, it's been a sad year for us, so we are the defending world champions. But one thing that would really upset me and baseball fans everywhere is that it's scheduled to rain heavy on Thursday, which is Derek Jeter's last home game, and Derek Jeter needs to play his last home game.
Did you see that?
Reschedule it, get it done.
Did you see that tickets for that game are going for as high as $10K a pop? There's seats by the dugout that are selling for $10K, and the nosebleeds in Yankee Stadium are going for like $250 a piece. It's crazy.
Sitting here, I'm sure you guys both have a healthy respect for the man. It's different growing up as a fan, though, as a kid growing up as a Yankee fan, because that's the guy who is the Yankees, and he represents everything that's good about the game. And when you're a kid playing Little League ball and you're told to run through first base, you do it because Derek Jeter does it on TV. He does it every play, every time he hits the ball, he's running hard through first base. It's something you want to model your game after. He's been a stand-up guy, a stand-up player, as a representation for the league, for the team, and for anything good, really. His Turn 2 Foundation is doing a lot of great work in the inner city for the kids, getting them exposed to the game of baseball. And it's going to be sad to see him go. It's going to be hard to replace a guy like that. The Yankees are going to struggle at shortstop for a while. They're going to retire his number. Obviously, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about it. It's just it's all becoming very real, and the Yankees you grew up with are done now.
Yeah, and what's crazy to me is that on SportsCenter they said that Derek Jeter has played in less than 10 games in his career when the Yankees have been eliminated from postseason contention.
Derek Jeter has played one game in his career where they've been eliminated from postseason contention, and it's going to go up obviously with the next couple of games.
Still going to be less than 10.
Yeah, still going to be less than 10. It's unbelievable. That's a crazy stat. Absolutely.
It's amazing. He's just a model of consistency for continued success in the MLB, and that's such a rare thing to come by in today's game. So it's definitely going to be a shame to see him go.
So real quick before we move on, past the Jeter thing, I know you got the Orioles going all the way. I know you got the winning. Zach, who do you have winning the whole thing?
I mean, I'm going to take another team from the D.C. metro area, and I'm going to go with the Washington Nationals. I said this on show last week.
Yep.
I haven't changed my pick. Power pitching, solid defense. That's what you need to win in the postseason, and it doesn't have to hurt to have a couple bats like Bryce Harper in the lineup.
Give me the Angels. A guy like Mike Trout can carry a team. That guy is unreal. He's filthy. That's just what it is. I like the Angels to make a little noise in the postseason, and it's good to see them back. They haven't been there since 2009, I believe. So it's nice to see a team like the Angels have a little consistency and get back in the dance.
I'm surprised no one's ever said is that Mike Trout and Gronk are like the same person.
How do you figure?
I mean, they both just have that kind of goon look, but they're both absolute stars. They change the game when they're on the field. They bring a lot to the team, and when they're not on the field, you can tell right away.
The thing with Trout that always stands out to me is he's always hustling. You never see a play where Trout's slouching off. He's always at full attention in the field, and he's like Jeter, he always sprints to first. He's an outstanding young player, and I think he'll see a lot more success moving forward too.
So here's an interesting question for the both of you. When you're growing up, you model your game after Jeter. Are you going to model your game after a guy like Mike Trout? Are you modeling your game after a guy like Bryce Harper?
Mike Trout's the guy, and if you're going to look for the opposite, you're going to look right across L.A., and you're going to look at Yasiel Puig as another guy with fantastic talent that does a lot of good things, but a guy who can't keep his emotions in check. I mean, he got hit on the foot on a 1-2 pitch last night against the Giants, and he almost caused a bench-clearing brawl because of a mistake. I mean, it's not a 3-0 count. It's not a 2-0 count. You're not getting hit on purpose. It's 1 and 2. He's trying to strike you out, and the ball just got away. I mean, you got to keep your emotions in check, especially when you're about to go to the postseason.
Yeah, I think Trout's definitely the guy. Bryce Harper has just had a real awful season this year, and the thing with Bryce Harper is he's too much of a diva. Mike Trout just keeps to himself for the most part. He's goes about his job quietly. He's successful, and he's a 5-tool type of baseball player. He can do everything.
Perfect. Gabs?
All right, guys. Now we're going to get into a little bit of some college football. We had a pretty exciting week this past week. Right now we have the Florida State Seminoles ranked at number 1, Oregon ranked at number 2, and Alabama ranked at number 3. We had Mississippi State beating LSU with their quarterback, Prescott, showing some impressive statistics. He's actually working his way up to a Heisman candidate. What do you guys think about this past week in college football?
This past week in college football, we saw a lot of teams exposed. We saw a playoff picture that got muddier by the quarter, and we saw exciting stuff. We saw a team like Oregon play Washington State, and Washington State fight them tooth and nail. They barely got out of there with the win. Again, we'll talk about it in a little while. We saw a team like Florida State play a team like Clemson and barely get out of there with a win. We do not have a lot of clear-cut, perennial powerhouses right now that are going to run away with the playoff system, and it's going to be interesting to see who sticks and who doesn't.
Yeah, I think not really a team in contention for the playoffs at this point, but I think a team that's really been surprising a lot of people lately is Eastern Carolina. Mm-hmm. That quarterback is something real. Cardin, he's been tearing it up.
Yeah, he looks like this year's version of Blake Bortles to me.
Oh, yeah.
But a team that I want to see tested that is really the only team in the top 10 that hasn't had a big test yet is Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. They're going into Arkansas. They're starting SEC play, and Arkansas is a team that can surprise people. They've got a solid offense. They are famous for going forward on crazy fourth downs, and they gave A&M a lot of trouble last year, and they only escaped with that win because Manziel was Johnny Manziel. So this is, I think, the first time we're going to see if Kenny Trill is going to be as good as Johnny Football.
No, absolutely. Arkansas is a team that's going to be tough to beat. They have some crazy stat I saw on ESPN. They have the quickest offensive score right now. something they've had like 4 or 5 scores that have been under 10 seconds into the game. So it's going to be really neat to see how a team like A&M handles that kind of pressure.
Yeah, Arkansas is always a threat in the SEC. They're the team that's never really respected, but they always put up a good fight. You never see them really get blown away in any games, and they're always in it, really. And it's just, I think it'll be a really good game to watch.
Another thing that maybe happened this past week that a lot of people were shocked to see is LSU's loss. You guys want to talk about that for a sec?
Honestly, I think LSU was not overrated, but I think they were a little overslotted at this point, or at that point in time. I mean, 8 was a little bit lofty for a team that really hasn't proven themselves that much. I mean, I think that of course, it was shocking because number 8 went down, but like, it's just, it's just they just weren't ready, I guess. I mean,
you're playing a team, Mississippi State, who is 4-0 now. They're nothing to turn your nose at, I guess. But it's still Mississippi State. You're in the SEC. You have Les Miles as your coach. Your recruiting class is unbelievable. Was it Leonard Ford? I don't even know his last name. Like running back, the number 1 recruit running back. Fournette. I mean, there's no excuse to lose like a team like that.
Yeah, especially when Leonard Fournette the week before is striking the Heisman pose after his first career touchdown.
That is true.
But what this whole thing says to me is that I think the preseason rankings are kind of a useless tool, and the fact that it has so much impact on team seasons is kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, you can have teams that are ranked in the top 10 preseason, like we saw a couple years ago with USC, that finished outside the top 25. I mean, with the new playoff system, it's only going to have a larger impact. I think it's something college football should review. Maybe look to start in week 4, start in week 5, once you have some tape, once you have a conference matchup or 2, to see what these teams are really like before you just say, hey, they were good last year, so let's put them number 1 or 2.
Well, I mean, that's kind of why we instituted this playoff system. There's not going to be a vote on those top 4 teams until I think it's mid-October. And that's when it really starts to matter where you're lined up in terms of ranking-wise. Yes, it still matters now. And, yes, for a team like LSU, that loss last week really hurts them. They dropped to 17. But, yeah, mid-October is where we really, really got to pay attention to it and take note.
Yeah, say what you will about the old BCS rankings. It got thrown away this year actually. But the good thing about the BCS ranking system is that it was always they didn't really have the preseason rankings. It waited until about halfway through the year, and then it based it off of what was going on there. And the AP poll is a little bit sketchy. The BCS poll is kind of sketchy. I mean, but I think college football is working on it, and I think they'll find something to figure that out in the future, moving forward.
Let's talk about our in-state rivals, the South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina went to Vanderbilt last week and beat them 48-34. The game was a lot closer than a lot of people expected for a long portion of that game. Any thoughts on that game, guys?
Well, lucky for them, the only team that looked worse in the SEC last week was Missouri, losing to an unranked Indiana team that's won all of, 10 football games in the last 10 years? I mean, Come on, this is the bottom feeder of the Big Ten. You can't be an SEC team 1 or 2 years removed from an SEC championship game and go and lose to Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If there was a Metro-sized stat for lucky, South Carolina would definitely have the number 1 ranking because they've been getting a lot of lucky breaks going their way lately, and we're looking at a team that could easily be 0-4, but they are 3-1. So who knows? It's Spurrier's black magic, I guess.
I mean, I know South Carolina. We love to hate on them here at Clemson, and it's exciting for people that have Carolina fans in their family, just like my mom who just texted me, which was pretty funny. Ma, how you doing? It's pretty exciting to see a team like South Carolina. They come off an opening week loss to Texas A&M. It was absolute trouncing in Williams-Brice. Then they come back, beat what we now know is a very good ECU team. And then they beat Georgia, who, as we all know very well, beat the heck out of Clemson, took them behind the woodshed. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see a team like South Carolina. You mentioned they play Missouri this coming week. They're gonna face a lot of stiff tests in the rest of the season. They're in the SEC for a reason. They're expected to compete now. Spurrier has tried to change the culture as much as possible. Can a team with Dylan Thompson leading them do that? I don't know. Can a team with Mike Davis running the ball do that? I don't know. But we're going to find out real quick. Might be a little bit of a slouch here in the next couple of weeks. Missouri, Kentucky, Furman. But then you got a big old Auburn team. And it gets real very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, the question, we've seen 2 Carolina teams so far this season. We've
Sure.
seen the one that's playing A&M that's just getting absolutely rolled, and we've seen the one that's playing Georgia that's hanging in there with a top 10 team in the nation that's really playing a solid football game all around.
Sure.
So we're going to see which one we see going forward throughout the season.
Gabs?
Okay, guys. Continuing with our college football, I want to really get into the game, the Clemson game against the Seminoles on Saturday. Let's get a breakdown of exactly why do you think Clemson lost to the Seminoles?
Well, I've got 2 words, and this is what I said on the show before, and I was very sad to have been proved right, and that is special teams. I mean, you look at Clemson right now. Clemson actually is number 1 in the nation somehow, number 1
In defense.
in team defense, and number 126 out of 128 in special teams. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, part of the reason that our defense is leading the nation in yards or around there is because we allow the worst starting field position. I mean, we've missed 4 out of 7 field goals, which starts the other team, around our 40. And I mean, special teams just has to get better. The offense looked good at times under Deshaun Watson. The defense has been stout all year, and special teams really just needs to step up.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people blaming it on the fumble after the interception late in the game, but the sad truth of it is, even if he wouldn't have fumbled, there's no guarantee that we would have made the kick. I mean, earlier in the game, Lakip missed a gimme from like 23, 24 yards out. So even if there wasn't a fumble, who knows where it would have gone, especially with that type of pressure on him.
Hey, you both make great points there. It's hard to even wrap my head around this loss. It's such a difficult thing to acknowledge that happened, because this is a game that we dominated for the better part of 3 quarters. You mentioned the gimme field goal. Yes, we had some mistakes, but they had mistakes as well. You had a young, inexperienced starting quarterback for FSU, Sean McGuire, coming in. He looked young and inexperienced for the better part of the entire game, better part of 4 quarters, to be honest with you. It was heartbreaking. It was agonizing. It was unfortunate. And you know what? I wanted to feel all those things after the game, but honestly, I don't. I was disappointed more than anything. I called friends. I called family. I'm breaking up with Clemson football. I'm done with them. It's like, you get back with somebody and they just keep scorning you, and that's exactly what is happening. Clemsoning is a phrase for a reason, because we continually trip over ourselves, shoot ourselves in the foot, and figure, hey, why not? Let's blow a couple more toes off. So it's really getting to a point where I'm not surprised. I was more sitting in that stadium this weekend expecting that to happen. And it was really unfortunate to see that unfold in front of me and see that happen and know that, hey, I've gotten to the mindset where I expect my team to, trip all over themselves and blow it late in big games.
Yeah, and I mean, his first couple years here, Dabo Swinney did a great job of coming in, changing the mentality of a team that wins games at the end instead of losing them. And I think we've regressed. I mean, we're back to a team that finds a way to lose games instead of finding a way to win games.
I think a lot of that comes with the level of talent we have right now. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of great players on the team, but we just graduated Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins, and Spencer Shue. We had a lot of great leaders that left this past year, and it's hard to replace that immediately. It's an expression my old teacher used to use in high school. When I was in a choir, we would have off years that we'd have to build on, and we'd have years that we were really good, and the off years that we had to build on to get where we needed to be, called those green years. And right now, I just think we're in a green year. We have a lot of talent. We have a lot of players that'll get better as they progress throughout their collegiate career. But right now, I just don't think we have the type of leadership necessary to hold on to leads in the end of the game and make the extra play that needs to be made to walk away with a win. And it's unfortunate, but I think we'll see the team improve upon that. And I think this next game against UNC will be a great game to build upon that.
I think you touched on a couple of different things there. You touched on leadership and you touched on talent. The question of talent in the Clemson program is not a question. I think that we have the talent and the depth to hang with any team in the country. We're good enough to do that. As we saw, we went to Tallahassee, even though it wasn't Jameis under center, and played a very, very good FSU team for 4 quarters, went to overtime with them. We have the talent to compete with the best teams in the country. Leadership, though. Leadership is where you hit the nail on the head for me. That's a scenario that doesn't happen if there's a base leadership for that team. You talk about the Taj Boyses of the world. You talk about the Spencer Shueys of the world. Those guys provided an extra spark to the team. They provided an extra stability to the team, if you will. to settle everybody down. All right, yeah, we fumbled the ball on the 10-yard line with 3 minutes to go. Let's get it together, boys. Let's make something happen here. Instead, we saw a team that was out of sorts for the last couple of minutes of the fourth and completely over their heads in the overtime. So, talent, no. Leadership, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some people get on the play calling for the 4th and 1 to snap it out of the shotgun, which, I mean, the fact that you would even have to consider going for it on a 30-yard field goal, I think, just goes back to special teams. But if we're going to leadership, I think one thing I am excited for with this Clemson team is the start of the Deshaun Watson era, which I think will be a fantastic thing to have one quarterback that's going to play the whole game, the majority of the snaps, no worries. I mean, it's been said time and time again that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And I think to have one is going to provide some stability at the leadership of leadership positions.
Gabby, I believe you had some input on this.
Yeah. I had a question, and I want to see if you guys can answer this. Why do you set up in a 6-yard shotgun on 4th and inches in overtime?
You get it.
You got it. You just don't.
All right, well, one thing that coming out of the shotgun does is it gives you options. You can throw the ball, you can pass the ball, you can run it back out wide, you can do a pitch, you can roll out. If you're lining up under center, you have one option, and that's run the ball. So I think what Chad Morris wanted was to provide the kind of a guise, a little bit of subterfuge, if you will, to disguise what he was doing, which was going to run the ball. If you line up under center, you snap the ball with the fullback and a halfback right behind, it's obvious what you're going to do.
I mean, Clemson's run that goal line package before. They've put the guys under center and have gotten blown up with it. So, yeah, I think Zach's completely right. You back a guy up, you give him options. That play, regardless of the play call, was doomed at the beginning. The kind of penetration that Florida State got off the snap, they jumped the count, and they were in the backfield when he handed the ball off. So there's nothing you can do about that in terms of play call. Yes, it's unfortunate that we have to even be in that situation. We should have a kicker that can line up and hit a 30-yard field goal with his eyes closed. But we're there, and that's the call that has to be made.
Yeah, no, you guys really hit the nail on the head. I mean, coming out of the shotgun, it's, of course, risky because you're so far behind what you need. But like you said, if you line up right under center, it's obvious what you're going to try to do. And we saw a couple of QB sneaks get just completely stuffed earlier in the game. So, I mean, I think Chad Morris just wanted to switch it up, and it just didn't end up working. It's unfortunate, but if we would have executed earlier in the game, like you said, we wouldn't have had to been in that situation.
All right, let's put the FSU loss behind us. Let's move on. Let's take our licks and get away from it for a little while. Clemson welcomes a very tough UNC team to Death Valley this weekend, a team that put up 40-plus points this past week against that ECU team again. So what do you guys expect to see from Clemson this weekend, and maybe some predictions?
Well, I'm looking for a big bounce-back game, especially when you saw on the flip side of that game, ECU just put up 70 on North Carolina. Now, I don't think we're going to see that same level of awfulness from North Carolina, but, this is going to be a night game. It's going to be a home game. It's going to be the first real home game for all the freshmen, first conference game of the year. So I think we get Death Valley rocking. I think if we can give the Tigers some support, get nice and loud on the first drive, get either a touchdown or a nice big stop, 3 and out, I think we can run away with this one early.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said about the night game, the fans are going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. I think we see a 21-point spread or more. I think Clemson just trounces UNC this week. I really do.
I want to jump on that bandwagon with you guys, but I'm not there. You got a young kid, Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he's coming home. It's not going to be as intimidating as an environment. Hopefully, it's a welcoming environment, to be honest with you. It's a night game. It's the big time. You're on ESPN. You're playing your first big college game at home, and there's a lot of expectations. Your first start as a kid, and I know Dabo has said things like, this is the only freshman I've had like this. Even Sammy Watkins, he's special. I get that, and I'm excited that Dabo has confidence in this quarterback because, as we saw, he didn't in Cole. Cole got, 3 drives in the Florida State game. So, yeah, let's be excited about this weekend. Let's hope that we go in and beat them by 21. I hope we get an early 3 and out. But you take it with a grain of salt. Let's see what happens. Let's see what the kid has and see if he can lead a team week to week and throughout the rest of the season.
One thing I've liked about Deshaun Watson is that he's cool, he's calm, he's collected under center. When the ball was snapped over his head, he didn't freak out. He didn't try to pick it up and make a stupid boneheaded play that's going to end up in a turnover. He fell on the ball. He did the right thing in that situation. And he's going to be a guy that's going to manage the game. He's going to not turn the ball over, and he's going to have the chance to make some spectacular plays both with his legs and with his arm.
I'm glad you brought up the snap over the head thing. Recently, it's been brought to light that some kids people have been sending death threats to Ryan Norton for the snap over the head. And my question to you guys out there that have done that, why? This is a kid he's playing football as a game. It's a game. That's what it comes down to. Yes, we expect the best from the people on the field that represent Clemson and everything it stands for, but people make mistakes. I'm sure you made mistakes today even. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. That's sick. That's twisted, and there's no place for that in college football, no place for that in Clemson, no place for that in life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, so we expect the best of our football players. We expect the best of our students as well. And I mean, that's just not something that we want to be associated with.
Absolutely.
Not at all. I agree entirely. Clemson should be held to a higher level of morality than that, and just uphold a better standard, because it's just unfortunate that this kid who made a mistake, he's probably beating himself up about it too. It's unfortunate that he's had to face that type of harsh criticism.
Absolutely. And, before we wrap up for today's show, we're going to touch on a few more things that broke late today. Tony Stewart, the incident that he was involved in, I guess, about a month ago now, where he hit the man on the track and took his life. Tony Stewart will not be charged for that. And have you got any thoughts on that, boys?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tragic incident for Kevin Ward and the family, but, I mean, I've seen the tape, and the thing that you don't do is you don't run around out of your car in front of cars that are going 150 plus miles an hour. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I mean, I get that you're upset that your car just got wrecked, but I mean, don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah, I agree. It's an unfortunate situation for both parties involved here. Of course, Ward for the fatality, and for Stewart for his career is never going to be the same, and it's just a bad situation all around. He said sorry. He's been making reparations, I guess, but it's really there's just not much to say on that. It's just because there's so much going on, and we really can't be sure about what actually happened or what didn't happen. So I mean, it's just impossible to tell. I
mean, I hate to even bring it up on the show, because you never want to talk about somebody that lost their life. You never want to have to deal with that kind of scenario, that discussion that comes along with it. It was a mistake. The jury, the government of the United States has decided that it was a mistake, and that's where it's going to be left. We all seen the video. We spoke about it on a show before. It was a bonehead move to get out of your car and run in front of another car while racing in the dark on a dimly lit track. There's no reason for you to be doing that. At the same time, your thoughts go out to the guy's family. It's a horrible, horrific way to go. You hope that Stewart can put it behind him and get back to racing, do what he does, and do what he does best. It's unfortunate that we have to keep talking about it, and hopefully this is the last that we talk about it for a long, long time. And that'll about do it, Gabs.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in tonight. Tune in next Wednesday at 8 o'clock to hear Zach, and Zach talk more sports. Thanks.